to CentrePoint AM45. Many thanks for staying with us on the program. Remember, you can watch us live on Facebook at AKBC Radio and TV. We're live on Facebook. Do tell your friends, tell your loved ones so they can hook up. Now, my guest on the program, our first guest on the program this morning, is an indigene of Itoro Ikono in Yolo government area. He was born in the United States of America. He's married to Udom, blessed with 5 children. He's a winner of many awards for his contributions and services to the growth of a Akpan organization in diaspora. Before even coming to his award, let's talk about some of his educational achievements. He had some stints with the University of Calabar where he studied agricultural economics. That's from 1991 to 1993. He was the president of that faculty, I think, twice. Now, he is a graduate of computer science from Georgia Institute of Technology. He's a senior web developer with AT&T and Delta Airlines, among other top companies. He owns the Ace Media Group website and event planning photography. That's what they deal with. And at the moment, he is the president of Akwa State Association of Nigeria, USA Incorporated. That's AKISAN. My guest is no other person. You've already met him. He is Mr. Itoro Akpan-Iquot. Thank you so much for joining us on CentrePoint AM45.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. When last, before this, I was just talking to you and you did intimate me that you've been here for about 2 weeks.
That's right.
Now, when last were you here in Akwa State before your current visit?
Yeah, my last stint in Nigeria was March 2019. I arrived, as a matter of fact, the eve of the presidential elections.
Okay. Okay, I would love to find out if you were able to vote and all of that, but I will leave that and talk about that in the course of the program. Let's begin with your tenure as president of AKISAN. So far, you became president in the year 2020.
That's right.
Okay, that's almost a year.
Yes.
At the moment. Okay. First of all, what does AKISAN do? What do you stand for? What are your objectives?
Yes. So AKISAN, as you already said, stands for Akwa State Association of Nigeria, USA Inc. It's about 34 years old as a state.
Okay.
We have about 30 chapters nationwide. We have at least 1 chapter in every major city. Big states like Texas, California have at least 3 chapters each.
Okay.
Sorry. So the motto of our organization is relentless giving and volunteerism. We are a non-profit organization and a volunteer organization. We conduct various projects throughout the year, mostly medical missions and scholarships. This year we decided to introduce vocational training. We're also looking to go into various skill acquisition like carpentry, plumbing, electrical work, and also agribusiness. We also have a convention every year in August. So this year's convention is August 5th to August 8th in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
And it's a 4-day event. It starts on Thursday when most of the people arrive. On Friday, we have a business meeting with the chapter presidents. We also have a business summit. Friday night, we have a cultural night where we celebrate our culture, speak our language, eat our food. We have a Miss AKISAN beauty pageant. Then on Saturday, typically we would have football matches, but this year because of COVID, we scaled that back. We're going to have a women's summit, a youth summit, among other programs. If the state government is coming, we give them a platform to have a town hall meeting. And then Saturday night is where we raise funds to undertake our various projects moving forward.
Okay. Now, still talking about AKISAN, you mentioned that you get involved in education, you get involved in advocacy, medical advocacy as well, medical aids as well. In your tenure, what have you been able to do specifically in those regards?
Yes.
In terms of giving back home?
Good. So, as you know, we've been put in a very peculiar situation with COVID. We did not have a convention last year, so we did not raise any funds.
Okay.
When I came in August, I decided that we shouldn't have to wait till this year's convention before we raise any money, because at least as on that time there was no guarantee we would have a convention this year. So what I did was I solicited private funding from individuals to fund our various programs.
Okay.
So right now we're training various people in IT, ICT as they call it here, software and app development, also in fashion design, culinary.
People in diaspora or
Oh, no,
people
here
from,
yes.
okay, okay.
Culinary arts, fashion design, and then the manufacture of household cleaning products, so like soaps, germicides. And it was very important to me because I believe in the financial empowerment of our people. We need to hire our own people, we need to create our own jobs, we need to support our businesses. So everything is being done in Akpan-Iquot State. It started in April. Most of them are 6-month programs. The first set will be finishing around October. And then after the convention, we hopefully will get enough funding and we get to increase the number of people that we're sponsoring currently.
Okay. Now, for the benefit of people who will be looking out for such opportunities, what's usually the criteria for selection of your beneficiaries?
Okay, so the official criteria is once we raise the funds, we have various committees. So let's say we have an education committee, we have a projects committee.
Okay.
So we usually send out that information through our social media pages, through email, through programs just like this, and then have people send in the case of scholarships, you write an essay, among other things.
Okay.
And then you send that into the committee, they weigh that out versus all other candidates. Then they will select the people who win those scholarships, for example.
Okay.
And then with respect to scholarships, we do not give that money directly to the students. We pay it to the school.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Okay.
people should stay tuned. Once, after the convention in August, we will send out that information.
Okay. Now, you've been in the organization for quite a while
Yes.
now, many years now. How would you rate the achievements so far of AKISAN?
Oh, it's done very well.
Okay.
I would say if we were a grade, I'd say we're at an A. I would like us to be at an A+. And why I'm saying A+ is because in coming here, I've come to realize that not many people at the grassroots level really know what AKISAN is. The few who do don't know what we do. So that's one of the reasons why I came here on a working tour, inspecting our projects, passing out souvenirs, talking to everyone I can find. Like my cap says AKISAN, people
That's
walk up,
right.
what does that mean? So once, in my opinion, we're able to reach the grassroots, then that's why I say we have an A+. But for now, it's an A.
Okay. You are on a working tour.
Yes.
Talk to us about what's on your lineup for this visit.
Yeah, so I've actually completed it. So I went to
Okay.
our ICT camp. I also went to the household training products. I also went to where we're training people in culinary arts.
Okay.
I did that last week. And then for the stuff I want to propose, so like the farming, I visited a couple of farms.
Okay.
I've also visited some areas where they teach carpentry and electrical work. And so all those pictures and videos are currently being compiled. When I get back to the United States, I will share that with the council and the people and have them decide. I've also bought a bunch of the items that have been produced. For example, I'm going to take that back to the people so that they can see where their money is going.
Okay. Now, for the people who are involved in vocational trainings, how are they faring?
Yes. So after visiting those 3 areas, I was very impressed. So let's
Okay.
take the manufacture of the household cleaning products. They showed me everything that they're producing. The people there, like one lady told me how she was very skeptical about the program, but after she was done with half of her training, she took some of the products to the office and she sold about 16,000 naira worth of products. So it's been very productive. The people in the ICT program, some of them have already started working on individual projects.
Okay.
And then of course with the culinary art, that one is a bit more technical, but the people we're training there say it's positive as well. One thing I've been trying to imbibe on those people in general is, and I grew up in that era. So they say go to school, get a job. And then you have a lot of people here who maybe 5-6 years after graduation they have no jobs. So don't go into these things expecting jobs. Nothing wrong with jobs, but I'm saying there are problems all over, right? Solutions to those problems exist. We're in the 21st century. It's all about technology, right? Don't worry about the money today. Worry about satisfying people's needs. The money will come later. But do something for yourself. And that's why I like the Dakada initiative, because it's teaching people how to, I guess, stand up for themselves, fend for themselves, as opposed to relying on government or other people.
Okay. Do you give them any kind of support at the end of their trainings so they can stand on their feet?
I guess technically no. So
Okay.
with respect to these 3 programs in particular, What happens is once they're done with official training, we encourage them to go into an internship program, and that doesn't cost them anything. Now, they can go off and do what they want to do after the official training is over, but with the internship training, they get to learn additional skills. So I guess that's the yes part of it, but we don't give any, because I've heard, I guess, in general here, when you invite people for training, they expect, I guess, like monetary benefits afterwards. No, we don't do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now talk to us about the medical missions AKISAN has involved itself with over the years.
So yeah, over the years we've done quite a few medical missions. What we do is we pick 3 local governments, 1 in each senatorial district.
Okay.
We visit those hospitals up front, make sure they have the right facilities. We do the necessary publicity. Last medical mission, I believe we treated about 6,000 people between childbirth or hernia, among eyeglasses, among other things.
Okay.
We get volunteers from the United States. We also get workers here from Akpan-Iquot State. And the government is very helpful in terms of logistics. So they provide us with vehicles, lodging, among other things.
Okay.
Yeah.
When was the last time any medical mission featured in Akpan State?
Yes, that was in October 2019.
Okay. Okay. And you earlier mentioned that because of COVID-19,
Yes.
you've been limited. But
Yes.
should we look forward to more of such missions? Should Akpan people look forward to some more?
Yeah.
Okay.
By God's grace, yes. After this convention in August, we should be able to raise enough money. I'm looking at next March, April, so that's 2022. Now, having said that, on an individual basis, I would encourage people to look at what they can do for their own people. And I'll give you an example. About 2 months ago, between about 17 cousins of mine in the United States, we came up with about $2,000, about ₦1 million,
Okay.
and we did our own medical outreach in my village and my mom's village. We touched about 400 lives, and it wasn't anything like surgery, but basic preventive medicine awareness programs. So, in as much as yes, AKISAN will have a medical mission, and there are other subgroups, by the way, that do theirs. But as individuals, we should all do our part, so that really reduces the strain on the mother association.
Okay. Now, taking a look at the profile of AKISAN, I understand it's a non-profit organization
Yes.
with distinction by harnessing the power of the people and our communities in the U.S. to benefit our people, both home and abroad. For the people living abroad, what does the body do to ensure unity? It's AKISAN, all Akwa people. Is not just this tribe, that tribe, and all of that. So what are you doing to strengthen the bond of unity of Akwa living in diaspora?
Okay, so speaking about my administration, one key thing I like to talk about as well, always one. I personally don't care where you come from. I don't care what problems you may have. I always tell people when you come into my meetings, whatever problems you have, leave it at the door. Let's discuss the business of AKISAN and how to improve the lives of Akwa-Ibomites in the United States and in Akwa-Ibom State. So I'm always preaching unity. I don't care where you're from. If you're from that border called Akwa-Ibom State, that's all it is about.
Okay. Okay. Now, strengthening the unity of, Akwa-Ibomites. The Governor Emmanuel has a project he calls the Unity Project,
Okay.
which has to do with, everyone must come together, no tribal sentiments and all of that. What do you think will be the gains of such?
Okay. So when you're united, you're stronger. When you're united, you think alike. When you're united, you can come together and think of ways to better, in our case, our people, without any sentiments involved. When you're united, it doesn't matter if we build a road here in Uyo or Itoro, as long as that road is there, that's all that matters, because at the end of the day, it's about the development of Akwa-Ibom State.
Okay. Now, for AKISAN, touching the lives of people living in the U.S., so far, how have you fared in that direction?
So in my administration, we came up with the idea of having a life insurance program.
Okay.
So people like in my parents' generation, generally speaking, they don't have life insurance. Many of them insist that when they die, their corpse should be brought home for burial. Yet many of them, generally speaking, don't provide the means for making that possible. Even for those living in the United States, same thing, that of course are going to be buried there. So by having this thing about with the life insurance, whether you want to be buried at home, whether you want to be buried there, at least there is money that can be left behind for your loved ones. Another area I'm looking at which should be implemented after the convention is an area of IT. So like we have an IT camp here, I want to have an IT camp there. So I'm already talking with a company that gives discounts for non-profit organizations. So if you want to change your career or if you just want to strengthen your skill set, those programs exist. And so using the name of our organization, get discounts to learn at your own pace and earn certificates.
Okay. Now, what kind of assistance do you give to Akwa-Ibomites who just arrived in the United States? What ways do you help them out?
Okay, so before answering that question, I'll say that, like I said, we have about 30 chapters.
Okay.
I've had a few people call me, so I'm sure it's a general feeling. When they first arrive in the United States, they Google if there's an association. So on our website, we have the list of all the chapters. So you click the one that's closest to you, you get your president's name, email address, picture, contact the person, and then that's how you get integrated into the system.
Okay.
Now, with respect to an overall vision, one thing I'm here to request or to talk about is the concept of an Akwa-Ibom diaspora house. Now this would be like an embassy of sorts. So for example, like you said, I want to, even if it's a visit or to go stay, I can come to this building, ask people, what is it like living in the United States, so that I'm better prepared. When I left in 1993, there was no one who gave me any instructions. Fortunately, I followed the right path and I was able to make it. But there are many people who, they might sell their houses, their homes, just to go to the United States, and they get frustrated because no one set them on the straight and narrow. So by having this house, like I said, whether it's people in the US who want to, for example, bring their businesses back home, they don't know what to do, they can access this building. And then also in the process, we're providing employment too for the people here.
Okay. Okay. You were born there?
Yes.
And then you came back to Nigeria? Then you went back?
Yes.
At what age did you go back?
Okay, so my parents went to school in the United States.
Okay.
I was 7 when we returned to Calabar at the time, Cross River State.
Okay.
And then I was 19.
Okay, you were 19, old enough to make certain decisions by yourself.
That's right.
Why did you go back?
As you mentioned, I spent about a year or so at UNICA.
Okay.
I was actually a year 1 student for 3 years because of between ASU strike, NASU strike, student riots, and then June 12 came along and all the schools were shut down indefinitely. So my dad then said, you need to go back to your country. And I'm like, what do you mean?
Okay.
I'm from Nigeria. He said, no, you're from America. So now he explained, if you're born, that's where you're from. Where you're from.
Okay.
So that's how I happened to leave.
Okay. Now I had to ask that question for the benefit of people who may have plans. I want to go overseas. I want to get to the United States. I don't want to live in Nigeria anymore. What advice would you have for young people? Some people think, oh, it's all glossy over there. Is it all glossy over there?
I can personally vouch that it's not all glossy. I remember a commercial in the 80s. This guy called Andrew, where he was saying, no water, no food, I'm checking out. And the moral of that advert was, things might be hard in Nigeria, but if you leave, who will be left behind to fix? So in as much as I would like people to have the opportunity to go visit all these other countries, we need to fix our state, our country first. Having said that, if you have the opportunity, you have to go through the right channels. So most importantly would be education. Well, maybe I should not say this, but let's say you find someone you want to marry, right? You get married, you get citizenship, that's how you get over. But basically go through the proper channels. That's what I'm trying to say. And when you get there, don't expect, like people say, do you know who I am? Things like that. You have to humble yourself. When I left in 1993, I told myself in 6 months I'll have a house, I'll have a car, all that. And then reality hit me, right? I ended up having 2 jobs making $4 an hour each. I was working 12 hours every day, and it was very frustrating.
And in 6 months, did you have the house?
No, I did not. I did not even start school in 6 months. So you have to humble yourself. You start low, and then you get high eventually. Don't come expect to be high. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's very rare, right? And don't say, okay, because this guy has 2 houses, I too should have 2. Everything, there's a time for everything. Do you, and eventually you'll get there.
Okay. For people, we hear stories, people will get some cases that are involved in certain fraudulent cases. What should young people, especially young people, it usually comes down to the young people, what should they avoid when they get there?
So what you should avoid is, I'm going to call it the blame. So like I said, you come there and then maybe the person you're living with or a friend you happen to meet is driving a Mercedes Benz. You don't know how they got that Benz. I'm not saying you got the Benz fraudulently, but typically people who buy cars, for example, it's all unknown. You have to pay monthly fees for the 5 or 7 years or whatever, right? You have to work. Most work is by the hour. If you do not work, you don't get paid, and then you don't get the car. Maybe that person doesn't even have time to sleep because they have to pay all these massive loans. So don't fall for the bling. Be yourself. Humble yourself, and you'll be fine.
Okay. All right. Let's move ahead now. You mentioned coming into the country in March 2019. That's about when we had the elections. Were you able to vote?
No.
Okay. What were the restrictions, and what would you love to see the government do to enable Nigerians in diaspora vote whenever they come home?
So I was not allowed to vote because I'm in the diaspora. And those of us in the diaspora have been advocating for years to have that right to vote. Other countries give their citizens that right as well. People might argue, okay, because we don't vote, we don't have a voice. And I would beg to differ. I believe, was it last year in general, Nigerians sent about $30 billion to Nigeria. That is our voice.
Okay.
Many of us, even though we're outside, still love our country. We want to be able to participate directly, not through people that we help. So I believe there's some legislation going through the House of Assembly, House of Reps and the Senate to make that happen. And I would strongly encourage the federal government to implement that solution so that we can vote directly.
Okay. Now, still talking about taking a look at your stint. You studied agricultural economics for just a few years, a year or so. Okay. Now, you've also talked about coming back home with a proposal on agriculture. The world is, the nation generally is looking at agriculture in terms of reviving its economy. What do you have? What are you proposing? What do you think about agriculture in terms of revamping the economy of the nation and the state as a whole?
Yeah, so as I always tell people, you can go without clothes. Technically, you could go without a house, but you cannot go without food. People have to eat. I grew up here in the 80s and 90s where we did not rely that much on the petrodollar. People had farms, right? So whether it was a garden behind their house, whether it was for business, right? And then slowly, unfortunately, we started relying more and more on petroleum, and then the food thing got away to the point where we were importing food. Let's take even here in Akpa-Iquot State. Many people still get their products from the north, right? So I see tremendous opportunity in the agri sector. Not just because I might have studied agri-economics, but because it's what I've seen. In my opinion, there should be no reason we should be lacking certain products, or certain products should be expensive because we cannot produce it here locally. We have the soil, we have the weather all year round, unlike the north, so we should take full advantage. Study the latest in agriculture, like right now, instead of planting on the actual land, you can plant in bags, and then you can produce more per hectare. Right? Okay. So we have everything here. I see tremendous opportunities and encourage everyone to get involved.
Okay. We have everything here. What's your thoughts on importation of our own products?
Yes.
From food to our culture to everything about Akwa-Ibom.
Yes.
What's your thoughts? How can we move forward in terms of exporting our own products?
So, very good question. While I was in the United States, about maybe 6 months before I came here, I was just Googling and I saw this video made in Akwa-Ibom. And that's a store, I believe, off of Iconic Road, which I will be going to visit.
Okay.
Everything in there is made in Akwa-Ibom. So it hit me that we have all these things, yet over there, we are buying things from Ghana, from, Lagos or wherever. Why not use that opportunity, brand our own products, and then export them? So when I go there, I want to talk to the owners of that place to see how we can get all these people who provided these items, maybe if they need a NAFDAC registration, whatever the government can help to do to make sure we can sell it there. Because what they might sell for, I'm just saying £1 here, they could sell for $20 there. They get that hard currency, bring it back, expand their businesses, hire more people, and that also lessens their reliance on the government.
Okay.
So I am all in favor of exporting Akwa-Ibom things in particular, like I said, I believe in the financial empowerment of my people, and I'm not apologetic about that.
Okay. How popular are dishes in the United States?
Very popular. The average person, in fact, there's some viral videos going around on WhatsApp where white people are patronizing our food. Akpan-Iquot, Akpan-Iquot, all those things. Speaking for myself, if a day goes by I don't eat usam mefere, I can go crazy. Right? Whenever I leave for the United States, I take a Ghana must go bag full of items that are either too expensive or not available.
Okay.
And I have a big freezer in a garage that has all these items.
Okay.
So we eat, my children, my family, we all eat our food all year round.
Okay. For the ones that you said may say are expensive, how expensive are food?
Well,
over there?
yeah, so like I mentioned, let me see. So I believe Gary is what, 3 cups for 200 naira. So that's about 50 kobo, whatever it is, right? Over there, the same thing, a little bag could be $10. Multiply that by 480, that's about 4,800 naira.
Okay.
So you can see the difference.
Okay.
So for stuff like Gary, it's too heavy for me to take there. I can buy it there. But things like ground crayfish, things like the ina, the snook fish, things like that, I take there. Because either you can't find them or they are very expensive.
Okay. Okay. Then we have some cultures. We have a dance, the things we wear that stands us out. How do we begin to export such, especially our dance? What have you been doing in that aspect?
So, in general, the different chapters, they have, many of them, like Atlanta One Prime, we have our own cultural groups.
Okay.
I mentioned the cultural night at the convention. It's all about that. We train our children from a young age on how to dance. Someone like me, I rarely wear suits to formal events. I always wear our own attire.
Okay.
That to me is how I brand. If the Chinese can do it, the white people can do it, why can't we? So, yeah, all that is there.
What about our language?
Our language, so again, speaking for myself, I'm very proud because Idibio is one language where if I walk into a crowd, unlike Spanish or French, I can speak my language and nobody most likely will hear what I'm saying, right? So I always encourage people to speak our language wherever. We're also working with a group called Bring Back Our Language.
Okay.
They're actually teaching our children online how to speak our language. I know a lady who, when I met her a year ago, could not speak any other language whatsoever. But through that lesson, now she's able to construct simple sentences. So we do encourage people to speak our language all the time.
Do you speak with your children?
I do, but I wouldn't lie, it's a little tough, right? So they know the basics. As a matter of fact, they watch more of our movies more than I do. They even speak Pidgin, right? But it's tough because now you teach them at home, they go to school, and then it's the English, right? But at least we're doing our best.
Okay. Okay, we have a video here that we would love to watch before we get to the next part of this program. It's a special few minutes documentary about AKISAN. Let's take a look.
Akwa Ibom State Association of Nigeria, otherwise known as AKISAN, is a non-profit and non-political organization that came into existence over 30 years ago in the USA. It was formed with the aim of promoting the interests of the people of Akwa Ibom State in the United States of America and at home. Its other objectives are to promote, encourage, and foster unity amongst the people of the state, to promote economic, educational, cultural, scientific, and social progress of the people of the state, to work with other Nigerian associations in the United States of America in promoting the interest of Nigeria, amongst others. Over the years, AKISAN USA has recorded a lot of achievements. They have given out several scholarships to undergraduates, have organized medical outreach programs. AKISAN has organized several vocational training programs and has over 30 chapters in the USA. The current national president of AKISAN USA, Mr. Itoro Akpan-Iquot, has been responsible for quite a number of developmental projects for AKISAN. Born in Still Waters, Oklahoma in the United States of America, where he started his early education, Itoro Akpan-Iquot returned to Nigeria with his parents in 1980 and studied agricultural economics at the University of Calabar. This visit also afforded him the opportunity to know his roots and appreciate the rich cultural heritage of his people. A native of Itoro, Udom in Uyo local government area of Akwa Ibom State, Itoro Akpan-Iquot returned to the United States of America in 1993. In 1999, he obtained a BSc in Computer Science from the Georgia Institute of Technology and over the years has worked as a web developer, obtaining several IT certifications in the process. Over the last 21 years, he has had the privilege of working with several Fortune 500 companies as a web developer and in many instances as a team leader supervising major projects. In 2006, he started his own web development firm, Ace Web Solutions, with a branch office in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. He has over 200 websites to his name and boasts of clients in the United States, Nigeria, United Kingdom, and Guyana. He is vast in most programming languages and is experienced as both front and back-end web developer. His years in Akwa Ibom State endeared him to his people, and this informed his deep interest in promoting and helping his people in several ways. He understood that to achieve this, he had to identify with the people of Akwa Ibom State in the United States of America and became a staunch member of AKISAN USA, which is the umbrella association of the people of Akwa Ibom State living in the United States of America. He served as a chapter president in Atlanta, his home city, from 2013 to 2015. Between then and 2018, he served in every other administrative role. At the national level, Itoro Akpan-Iquot has been the webmaster for AKISAN USA from 2009 till date, in addition to serving as webmaster for the websites of several AKISAN chapters. Upon assumption of office in August, he and his executive were immediately tasked with what would have been their first major crisis, the death of Iyene Okokon, an Akwa Ibom-born indigene in the Dallas, Texas area, whose corpse, with no one to claim it and no one to front the funeral expenses of $6,000 within 1 week deadline given, was almost turned over to the county. Itoro and his team immediately reached out to the community and were able to raise the money in 4 days. A month later, monies donated exceeded 40.
Alright, so much about our guests, a lot of which we've talked about, and it's equally important for you to hear some more in case you didn't join us from the beginning of the program. My guest is the president, AKISAN Akwa Ibom State Association of Nigeria, USA Incorporated. My guest is Mr. Itoro Akpan-Iquot, and we've been talking about Nigerians in diaspora, AKISAN, building strong collaborations. All right, let's get to the next lap of the program. At the moment, news is 6 years of Governor Emmanuel in office. All right. What is your perception of the Udom administration?
Yes, so that's a very good question. I could list several, but I would like to do two.
Okay.
First one, like I mentioned, was the Dakada initiative. Giving people that, I guess, perception or the knowledge that you don't have to rely on government for anything. Stand up for yourself, stand up for your rights, right? The second one is, as you said, I came March 2019. Ibom Air had not taken off at that time. So this year was my first time using Ibom Air. And I thought it was like Air Peace, where you know they would say 2 o'clock and not leave till 6. So I strolled into the airport in Abuja. I ended up being the last person on the plane. I had to run. They said the plane was going to leave at 2:15. It left at 2:07. It arrived at 3:05. And by 3:30, I was out of the airport. I was very impressed. especially when I consider that between the ownership, the management, it's all, Akwa Ibomites.
Okay.
So those are two top areas that I'd love to mention here.
Okay. Now, back to your tenure as president of AKISAN. What more will you be doing in terms of building strong collaborations, telling us what you're doing, and then taking a message back home?
So one of the reasons why I'm here also is to talk with the government, specifically His Excellency Mr. Udom Emmanuel, on how AKISAN and Akwa Ibom State government can partner for the development of this state. How we can bring, as you said, we act as a bridge between the Akwa Ibomites in the United States and also in Akwa Ibom State.
Okay.
So there are so many areas where we could partner, and that's one of the things that I want to do. I also mentioned the idea of having that diaspora house. I think that's very important. Even if we don't have the house, we can have a piece of land on which we can build anything. So whether it's a hospital, event hall, whatever, so that we can have that presence. Many people ask, again, who are you, what do you do? We do the scholarships, we do the medical missions, but it's not like people are walking around with signs that, okay, you operated on my hernia last year. But if we have that permanent structure, we have a signboard, people walk by, they see who we are, what we're doing, I think that will have, greater impact.
Okay. All right. So before we let you go, your parting shot for Akwa Ibom people, what would you say? What would you recommend as a recipe for peace, sustainable peace in Akwa Ibom? What would you recommend as a recipe for building strong bonds and harnessing unity in the state?
Okay. So in general, first of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to interview with you. With respect to that bond, I think the more people from the United States have that opportunity to come back here and vice versa, through programs like this, through my sensitization tours, people get to know who we are and what we're about. The more they know, the more they're familiar with what we do. We communicate better, we get to know our strengths and our weaknesses, and that's how we get to build that bond.
Okay. Your advice for Akwa Ibom people in that regard?
Yes. So my advice for Akwa Ibom people in general, all over the world, again, we need to be united. We need to promote our culture. We need to promote our businesses, hire our own people. If we don't do that, we will not have a strong economy. That it starts with unity. Without unity, there's nothing.
All right. Without unity, it won't work out. I love the part where you said we need to hire our own people. We need to do a lot of that. I want to thank you so very much for having been part of our program this morning, and we wish you more grace in your tenure as president of AKISAN.
Thank you very much.
The rest of CentrePoint AM45 continues in just a moment. Do stay.
This is our home, where we all belong. The place where life is beautiful. The peaceful ambience we enjoy when we live together in unity and love. It's all in my